In the last 6 presidential elections, the Democrats have won the popular vote 5 times. In the last 6 presidential elections, we did not nominate a conservative. We have nominated the Republican that the Republicans have insisted we nominate. And we've lost time and again. We have 2 massive Reagan landslides, the most conservative president in modern American history. We were told he couldn't win. Not only did he win, but when he ran against Mondale in 1984, he won every single state, their electoral college, but Minnesota by 2,500 votes. Every single state. George H.W. Bush wins on Reagan's coattails and then quickly loses his second potential term to a backwater governor from Arkansas. Then we nominate Dole. He loses. George Bush loses the popular vote to Gore, and on and on and on. And there's something wrong with us? In 1980, Reagan, strongly opposed by the Bush family and the Republican establishment, got 489 electoral college votes. Jimmy Carter got 49. All we hear about today, 35 years later, is the Republicans have to run the table. They can't lose a single state if they're going to win the Electoral College. Just 35 years ago. And he was running not just against Carter, but John Anderson, a liberal Republican, ran as an independent. Ed Clark ran as a libertarian. Reagan smashed all of them. Then he ran in 1984 for re-election. He received 525 Electoral College votes. Walter Mondale got 13, Minnesota. By the skin of his teeth. That's 31 years ago. George H.W. Bush, Reagan's vice president, runs for election for president. He wins what many people argued was Reagan's third term. He receives a smashing 426 Electoral College votes. Dukakis gets 111. And then George H.W. Bush abandons Reaganism, talks about a kinder and gentler conservatism, raises taxes, expands the bureaucracy, does all those things moderate establishment Republicans do. And just 4 years later, some nobody, former governor of Arkansas, a joke, runs against him and defeats him. Bill Clinton in 1992 gets 370 Electoral College votes, George H.W. Bush 168. Then they nominate Bob Dole in 1996. Bill Clinton gets 379 Electoral College votes. Dole gets 159. Then they say, we have an idea. Another Bush, the governor of Texas. Bush wins 271 Electoral College votes to 266. He wins by 5 Electoral College votes. But he lost the popular vote. That is not in dispute. He legitimately won the presidency, but lost the popular vote. Karl Rove, the architect, was in essence, the campaign guru, and they lost the popular vote. Then comes 2004. George W. Bush runs against John Kerry, a Massachusetts Democrat, a leftist. And George W. Bush has a lot of people behind him because we're fighting a war against the Islamo-Nazis. He squeaks out an Electoral College victory with 286 Electoral College votes. I'm getting to a point, stay with me, to John Kerry's 251. And he leaves the Republican Party in a shambles. He did nothing to build the Republican Party. He all but ignored the conservative movement. Nothing. The most liberal member of the Senate, the most liberal Democrat in the Senate, 2 years in the Senate, no substantive background whatsoever. The Democrats nominate Barack Obama. It should have been a cakewalk to defeat this man. And who do the Republicans nominate? John McCain, who gets killed in this election. Obama gets 365 Electoral College votes. John McCain only 173. The man who was closest to defeating McCain in the Republican primary was the former governor of Massachusetts, who has gone from being a liberal to a conservative to a moderate, Mitt Romney. And so the Republican establishment then gets behind Mitt Romney. He's the only one who can win, they told us. The only one. Day in and day out. We heard that on TV. He wins the nomination. Not easily, but he wins the nomination. And in 2012, he gets his brains kicked in by Barack Obama. He runs a horrific campaign. Obama, with his disastrous record, 332 Electoral College votes. Romney only 206. And the number of people voting dropped dramatically by millions because they didn't like either Obama or Romney, and the Republicans didn't give them a conservative. What have we learned from this? We've learned that the Republican establishment not only loses more elections than it wins, but it hates conservatives. It hates outsiders. It is the Republican establishment. What else did we learn? We learned that they tell us time and time again that only they can win, when in fact only they can lose against a Barack Obama or a Bill Clinton. When George Bush was elected president in 2000, was sworn in 2001, we had a Republican Senate and a Republican House. After 6 years of George W. Bush and Karl Rove, we lost the Congress. We lost the Congress. They take no responsibility for any of it. Karl Rove is ubiquitous. Trashing today on TV, Ted Cruz. Trashing weeks before, Donald Trump. Trashing Rand Paul. Trashing Ben Carson. Trashing anybody who's not a Bush or not a moderate establishment Republican. And he's got quite a soapbox to do it, including on the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. These people are not conservatives. They are not constitutionalists. Under George W. Bush, the debt massively increased. In fact, before Barack Obama, spending under George W. Bush, the debt under George W. Bush was bigger than any president in American history, no matter how you measure it. Barack Obama comes in, George Bush is the Herbert Hoover to Barack Obama, the FDR, if you will, and goes nuts with his spending and all the rest of it. 2 years Barack Obama had a Democrat House, a Democrat Senate. This is what the George W. Bush, Karl Rove legacy gave us. And it's the Tea Party that rose up at the end of the Bush administration and the beginning of the Obama administration saying enough is enough. We need some sanity. Somebody has to represent the American people, hardworking Americans. And the Republican Party took our votes. They won the House in 2010 by a huge margin. We threw out Nancy Pelosi. We gave the gavel to the Republicans. We had no say over John Boehner, whether it would be him or not. And John Boehner has shown nothing but contempt for all of us. Then we were told, as you know, okay, look, we're only 1/2 of 1/3 of the government. Give us 1/3 of the government. Give us the Congress. We will eliminate Obamacare. We'll repeal it and replace it. We will not tolerate executive illegal amnesty. We will take this president on. Give us the Congress. In 2014, he gave them 9 more Republican senators and even more House members. And they hate us and they attack us because we're trying to hold them to their promises. At a minimum, we expect them to fight. If they were never going to have the votes to fight, then they shouldn't have ran for office and said that they would. And so now we have spectacle after spectacle. John Boehner is forced to resign eventually. The establishment burps up Kevin McCarthy, a bigger lightweight I've never seen, and I said it at the time. But the Republican establishment wanted him. Why? Because he was bought and paid for by the U.S. Chamber of Crony Capitalism and all the rest of them, and he's a wheeler dealer. An inch deep, a 3 IQ, but it didn't much matter till he started to open his mouth, and for other reasons. Now they're telling us only Paul Ryan can be Speaker of the House, because he's a true blue conservative. How so? Because he voted for everything George W. Bush wanted and virtually everything John Boehner wanted, and he's the most radical Republican on the issue of immigration. Go on the Internet. It's all there now. Wish I'd known it earlier, but it's there with his buddy Luis Gutierrez. And by the way, endorsed today by Harry Reid, as he was endorsed last week by Luis Gutierrez. What do they know that we don't know? Nothing. We know it all. The same people who've lost election after election, the same people who cost us Congress in 2006, the same people who sought to stop Reagan from reaching the American people with massive landslides, the same people who have massively increased our debt, who have opened our border broadly, who've sold out the First Amendment with McCain-Feingold, those people, they now tell us only Paul Ryan can be Speaker and no outsider should be president.